Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. On this episode, I've got a couple of friends over. We are doing a top 5 where we're going to talk about each of our top 5 wine styles, regions, or countries that we're looking forward to drinking more of in 2025. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Bottles and Bites Without Borders, where every sip and every bite tell a story. Rob is your host. Each week, he will take you on a delicious journey, from vineyard tales and distillery secrets to culinary traditions. So, grab a favorite drink, a plate of something tasty, and join us for another adventure with Bottles and Bites.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm looking forward to this conversation. We're going to see where this conversation takes us around the world as far as grapes, wine, styles, regions that we are looking forward to drinking in 2025. And you're going, well, who's we? I've got 2 guests on today. I've got 2 friends that are joining on the episode. I've got Travis Thompson. How you doing, Travis?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm great. Glad to be here. Thank you, Rob, for having us.
Absolutely. And I've got Angelo Ferrari. How you doing?
Great. Buonasera.
Oh, look at that. You're going to sing a little bit for us?
Maybe later.
Maybe later. Enough wine in him, and you don't know what's going to happen. All right. So you guys understand what we're doing today. We're going to go from 5 to 1. You don't have to, but I think, for suspense reasons, you want to go from 5 to 1, kind of working up the climactic reveal of the number 1 on your list. So, and then when we get done, we'll have some honorable mentions that we can talk about, that you guys can mention that were, maybe close to making your list, but for whatever reason, got beat out by the ones that you did put on your list. So, I think, how do you guys want to do this? Do you want to go entire list, or should we go around and do 5s and then go back to 4s?
I think we should go around and start with, each person's 5.
I like that too. And it's going to be interesting. I'd like to hear, before you give your first pick, talk about what your criteria was for how you formulated your list. What made you pick these wines, these grapes, these regions to go on your list?
Well, I think if you ask, 3 different people, grab 3 different people off the street, everybody's going to have a different answer.
That's the beauty of it.
Because everybody drank a lot of something different in 2024. And for me, I drink a lot of Spanish and Italian wine, thanks to that man over there. And so in the coming year, you're going to notice in my list, there's not any Italian or Spanish wine mentioned. There's still undiscovered grapes for me there. There's still a ton of great wine to be drank. It's just, those are some wines I'm going to try and not necessarily stay away from by any means, but the ones that I'm going to try and explore more of those are not going to be on the top 5.
Okay. So what was the criteria for picking?
So my criteria is, and I feel like it's kind of been a theme in my wine journey.
And by the way, it could be different for each position. 5 could be this reason, 4 could be another reason. So,
so some of mine are regions / grapes. Some of mine are just grapes, and some of them are just regions. But the theme in my wine journey thus far has always been education. Like, I want to learn about something. I got into selling wine because I wanted to be better at buying wine. I got into the WSET program because I wanted to be better at walking down HEB, Specs, the wine shop, wherever I'm at, and understand what the steward is trying to sell me, or what I'm looking at, and try and understand how far is my $22 or $38 taking me with X region, grape, or style.
Okay, well, guess who's leading off with all that?
Well, wasn't that interesting?
That was very interesting.
He answered everything.
I mean, the dude just stepped up and said, "I'm batting lead off on this episode." So there you go.
I put a little bit of research into this. I'm ready.
Okay, well, lead us off.
All right, so my number 5, out of the West Coast, other than Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Cabernet Sauvignon. So
You're talking United States.
Yes.
Okay.
So Oregon, Washington State, and California, but outside of those big 3 grapes. There's a ton of wine that exists in let's just go down the list. Pinot Gris, Gamay. There's just a lot of stuff within those 3 states, and I'm just labeling them as the West Coast. That I have not dove in far enough, and I always do those states a disservice because I don't know. I guess I always just try and stay off the beaten path and be like, so where do I want to drink that I haven't drank before? What's not popular? And so that's what I always have kind of steered myself towards is, what's the, not necessarily the weirdest thing out there, but just something that's not Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon or not Napa Valley Chardonnay or Sonoma Chardonnay.
So you're open to anything.
Yeah. So just stuff outside of those three grapes.
Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Cabernet.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Just those three. Okay. Well, that leaves a lot
Yeah.
for you to, because if I think about a grape in California, that if I were going to drink something from there on a regular basis that I enjoy, be Zinfandel. I mean, I absolutely love the Zinfandels from Sonoma and up in Northern California.
Well, and personally, Zinfandel is one that I haven't explored a ton or not as much as I should have. Or
But now you are.
yeah.
Don't forget Primitivo.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're related.
Rob, one that you and I have talked about is, Pinot Gris out of Oregon. That's one that I need to
Yeah.
give some attention to. Or, I'm sure that somebody's making some Riesling on the West Coast that I haven't, tried at
For
all.
sure. Yeah.
The bubbles on the West Coast I haven't given enough attention to. What else? What am I missing?
I don't know. I don't know. Is there a sparkling on the West Coast that you're a fan of?
Matt Carter introduced me to it.
Schaumburg?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Schramsberg makes some great stuff for a really solid price. I enjoy their wines, but that's really the only one that can come to mind. So that's what I'm saying is I've got some learning to do on the West Coast.
Yeah. And I know that there's more and more grapes being used as the primary grapes in a lot of wines on the West Coast. I think about Syrah. I think about Petit Syrah. I think about, Malbecs, I think are still a great wine. If I mentioned, the West Coast, I like a lot
Cabernet
of
Franc.
Cabernet Franc is a great one. We had one from Ragushi last night that I saved a little so you guys could try a little tonight. So yeah, absolutely love those. So I think, that's a great choice. You're going to have a lot of fun exploring if you haven't had a lot of those grapes already.
Yeah, and Cab Franc's a good one. Syrah's a good one, but I guess I'm looking at those. I listened to it might have been, I can't remember what podcast it was, but they were talking about producers who are making high caliber Gamay out of California, and that's kind of what inspired this pick for me. Is I want to try and seek out some Gamay from California. I've never had it, never seen it. I want to find one.
Yeah, that's always something that I go. There's some grapes I go, why are you doing that?
Right. Well, but part of my journey has been finding these grapes and the journey that the grapes take.
Yeah.
So on your point, and both of your points, is having grapes like, Cabernet obviously is universal, but I was just reading and saw some grapes like Aliatico.
Yeah.
Aliatico is a grape that obviously is from Le Marque.
Yep.
But it's also in Chile, is also in Uzbekistan. And those wines are up and coming. All the wines from like the Baltic countries and those Soviet republics are producing more wine.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and for me, that's super interesting, is finding these grapes and the journey they take and how they change in style and in flavor according to the terroir and the winemaking method.
Yeah.
I just recently ran into a Lodi producer that they're making both single varietal and a blend of Teroldico. So out of Lodi, California, they're making a Tuscan grape.
I don't know that grape.
Actually, it's from the Alto Adige.
Oh, it's from outside.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we happen to have a producer that has it in Tuscany,
Okay.
but that's a Teroldigos from Trentino or Alto Adige, one of those two.
Okay.
Yeah, and Angela and I both have had a Sangiovese out of Washington State, so it's
That was spectacular.
yeah. I mean, and we've used it in wine dinners, and it's definitely I love now I've also had Sangiovese out of Texas that did not impress me.
Yeah.
So it's always fun trying to figure out what grapes thrive in what places.
But I would also say when you go exploring grapes from different parts of the world, different regions, different climates, different elevations, don't have a bar that you're trying to, a standard that you're trying to compare it to. You have to go in with a complete open mind, or else, you're never going to have, something from California Cabernet Sauvignon, something from, Bordeaux or Chile or somewhere in Australia could be completely different. You need to be open to exploring it and enjoying it for what it's supposed to be.
And exploring why it's different.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's 5 on your list, Angelo?
5, I would think more of a stylistic criteria. Like for me, because of my background, I love rustic wines.
Okay.
And by that, I mean what the farmer makes that people drink every day. And I like to find wherever I go is what their house wine is.
Yeah.
And I truly enjoy that wine. But tied to that is I think we're seeing a worldwide trend where the style of wine is changing a little bit. Everything the past 2 years seems to be a little bit rounder and softer. So
I
will those
agree.
rustic wines be able to remain true to their terroir and their identity if they start changing their style to be more universal or generic? I think that's something to explore. So that's one of my
So the style is you're going to continue to chase after those rustic wines.
correct.
And he's lucky enough, he travels enough, he gets to do that because a lot of those styles that you get to enjoy probably aren't distributed a whole lot.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm going to go a country for my number 5. And the reason I'm going with this country is I've had a few wines. I've went to a couple of tastings for this country, and I like what they're doing, but I don't know it very well, and I haven't explored. So 2025 is something I want to do in this country. But the second big reason I want to go to this country is, you both know, my favorite country to drink wine from is Italy. And this country is taking a lot of Italian varieties, and they're making wine with it. Any guess?
Sangiovese?
No, the country that's making, using multiple.
Slovenia.
They have Sangiovese, they have Fiano, they have Nebbiolo, they have Nero de Avila.
Mexico.
No, I'll just tell you, Australia.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I want to go there and check that out. The other reason is last year we got a tasting of wines from Tasmania. And I don't know if you've had some wines, got a chance to taste some wines from Tasmania.
Never.
The Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay, this is in that very cool off the coast, the island. I mean, it blew us away, me and my wife. And I'll tell you, they had 2 Chardonnays. One was $21 and one was $85 at this tasting. We both thought the $21 wine would just blew away the other wine, and we ended up buying several of those. Really, really good wines.
I think there's a pretty mainstream sparkling wine out there. Jan's, I think, is from Tasmania, and that's good stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's. I know we've had it at a Backstreet Cafe. I'm not sure it's much in retail, but that's good wine.
The other reason I want to taste there, because if I ask you guys probably know more than me, but if you said Margaret River, I could not tell you what comes from the Margaret River. If you say the name, I'd go, yeah, I know that's a region. What wines are made there? Have no clue. So I really want to do a better job of, to your point, Travis, of being more wine educated. This is a big producing wine region in the world, so I want to learn more about the regions and what wines are made there. Because I think if you ask somebody, what wine are you drinking tonight, they'll go, it's just Australian, right?
Yeah.
They don't say it's from the Margaret River, or they don't say it's from, what's another region there that's pretty popular? Tasmania. I'll just throw that out there.
Barossa Valley, Yarra Valley.
Yeah, Yarra Valley.
But are those grapes tied to a appellation in Australia?
They are not per se, but there are regions that are known for, certain grapes do better there, and they're known for that. So I want to learn more about that. So yeah, I think Australia is a pretty cool place, but I'm really interested because of the Italian varietals. I want to see, because I love these particular varietals from Italy. I want to see, do I enjoy them from Australia as well? Because I know like Fiano is a big one that's supposed to be pretty good from there. So we shall see. We shall see. All right. You want me to do the snake method and come back to me, or do we want to go back to you, Travis?
It's up to you, man. I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead. Knock it out. Number 4.
All right, number four for me is a region that probably of, I don't know, if you were to say 12 wine growing regions, it's probably one of the ones that I know I'd probably say the least about, but it deserves a lot of recognition because of, first of all, its ability to grow wine. They make a very popular wine, but it's just, as far as just your serious reds or whites, people don't give it a lot of love, and that's Portugal. So for me, I've had very little just, still, non-fortified red wine from there. And I don't, especially like their summer whites, Vino Verde, I've got some in the fridge, but, it's one of those that I just, I always reach for something else. And I think, 2025, I'm going to give it a little bit more focus.
Okay, nice. I like Vino Verde. I mean, it's a very refreshing, really fun wine to drink in the summer. I'll be honest.
Price conscious.
Very.
That's great.
Yeah. I don't know. I know that when you talk about value, Portugal, the still reds are really good value. And I think, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm hearing that you're going to start seeing more and more distributed to here in the States that we'll be able to find these and enjoy
Of the
them.
reds?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, more and more.
Well, and I've actually got a note here that just on 2 of my in the top 4 under distributed, and just because I mentioned Vino Verde, but also Touriga Nacional. That's one of the grapes that's in port, but it's also they make a killer. You could almost compare it to. It could be in your Cabernet Sauvignon, your Syrah, that kind of serious, full-bodied steak wine category. I think that's. I want to try it with some barbecue this summer. I want to try it with some, a steak night. But just and then let's see. I've got notes. They're whites, crisp, acidic. A lot of coastal influence. Just within Lisboa, they have 9 DOCs.
Oh, wow.
So, that's just whenever I was kind of diving into this a little bit, that's something I didn't know. And so I want to, just find out what those DOCs are, see which ones are, worth drinking, and then, buy a bottle or 2 from Lisboa and see what it's about.
Now, are you seeing those? Are you being able to get those?
No, that's part of the note I made is under distributed.
Yeah.
I think probably your best bet is going to be somewhere like, Houston Wine Merchant, or Vinology.
But that's a shame because being in the business, we see every day how these cooperatives come over and show their wines.
Yeah.
And it's a great value. They're delicious wines. Everybody likes them. But for some reason, they don't translate into your, it's a cab.
Yeah.
It might be just as delicious or Chardonnay. They might have every single quality that you would think would be a hit for this wine, but name, that people don't know the country. So it takes a lot of education and time for these to become part of the mainstream.
Yeah, and that's kind of our message to the listeners tonight is to keep exploring. If you see a grape but you don't know the region like you're talking about or the country, give it a shot. You already know you're going to like that grape because you drank it, but, understand it's going to be a little bit different. But I would say it would probably be hard to just say you hate it. You might not be your favorite, but the flip of that is you could absolutely love it, and it could be your new favorite wine that you're searching for all the time. So
yeah, but I think part of the reason I bring up Portugal is just my lack of knowledge. There's over 200 wine grapes grown in Portugal that I'm just ignorant of. And that's part of why I brought up the West Coast first is it's I know a lot about those main grapes that are grown. I didn't necessarily name drop Cab Franc and Syrah and Merlot. But, I guess what I really should have said about that first category is the undiscovered ones, the Pinot Gris, the Rieslings, the Gamay. That's what I'm after in 2025 is finding those kind of unturned rocks.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right. Number 4 for you, Angelo.
Number 4 for me is going to be white wine.
Oh, in general?
In general, but no, starting in general, but just because of so many months of heat that we're going through.
Yeah.
I've been making it a mission to try every single new white wine that I see. I want to try. However, I wanted in this year I want to specify more Austria.
Okay.
Whether it be Burgenland, Styria, Kamptal, or Lower Austria up in the north part, and they're at least in Europe or in the old world they're renowned for their white wines.
Yep.
Italian winemakers aspire to make white wines like the Austrians. So I want to learn more about those wines, and also explore how the climate change is evolving what they do with white wine, and that'll give us an idea of what the other regions are going to be doing. Besides
Riesling, Gruner, Veltliner, and Gewürztraminer, what other grapes would people explore from Austria?
Sauvignon.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. That'd be a lot of fun.
Would you ever consider importing, some more white wine, based off of your notion to explore more in 2025?
I think the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Because the market in general is drinking more white wine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because especially because the market that both Angela and I represent is Houston, and so the Houston summer is I don't know 8 months out of the year.
That's a little short. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
we just had our week of winter. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Angela. Were you always a big white wine lover? So is this something new for you to go, I'm usually, 70, 75% red. I do drink white. Or have you always been kind of a...
No, I drink both. I would say I'm more of a white wine appreciator.
Okay.
So I love the glass of wine that's in front of me.
Yeah.
And I truly believe you have to drink what you're enjoying and what you're eating.
Yep.
So that whether it's white or red or sparkling.
Yeah, I would say for me, I asked that question because my journey has been up into about maybe 2-3 years ago. I was, I'd have a glass of white, but I wasn't really exploring and trying to, navigate the world of white wines from all these different places. Fast forward to now, I would say I enjoy white wine and drink it much more than I do red wine.
I'd have to agree. I think in probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I always considered white wine boring. And
it was a girl drink too. I was a dude. I drink red wine.
Well, I mean, but and I'm sure if there's any,
right?
Well, I like girls, so I like white wine.
Okay.
I'm sure if there's any wine educated people listening, they're probably just laughing at us, saying, "How can you say generalize and call white wine boring?" It's like, well, I mean, everybody goes through a journey, and you and I somewhat align on that. Is that there was a point in time where you discovered that Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Riesling, Pinot Gris, all these grapes, they have a time and a place, and especially in Houston, Texas, that's a lot of time and place.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for somebody like, me and Angelo and kind of our daily work lives, we taste a lot of wine, a lot of, and a lot of it is red. And so for me, like rosé and sparkling is where I spend a lot of my free time. Like at home, my wife down the table here will admit or acknowledge that that at home my preference is something different. Whether at home I don't drink Syrah, Cabernet Sauvignon, not a whole lot of Pinot Noir. It's either whatever's open from work that day, or it's sparkling or rosé.
Yeah,
just because it's a change in pace from Sangiovese or Cabernet Sauvignon or Tannat or whatever we're being either shown that day or whatever I'm showing our market.
Yeah, but it expands your palate and your knowledge.
Absolutely.
It grows.
For sure.
Yeah. That's the whole world of wine.
And your frame of reference.
By the way, I have a question. When do we get to the end of the road? When do we know everything about wine?
I don't think we never find that.
I'm just kidding, of course.
I mean, you just found out about the Tirolgo grape tonight. So.
Yep. That's what makes these conversations fun. That's why I love having guests on the show and different people, because it's a journey that I get to continue to learn about wine as well.
I mean, I was just in Italy last week. We were in Italy last week and had some varietals that I've never even heard of.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprised me with you because, that's your
Well, yeah,
homeland.
there's like 1,500 grapes. I might be able to name 10,
Oh,
I think. However, we had one in near Venice, Torqueto.
Yeah.
A sparkling Torqueto. It was delicious.
Wow.
But his production is so small. I think they have like 2 hectares in
That's really small.
in that appellation of production. So it never goes beyond there. Never gets out.
Yeah, so Angelo texted me from Italy, and it was showing me this bottle of Torqueta by Sant Antonio.
And of course, he told me he knew it. I don't know.
Did you know it?
No, I didn't know it.
I was going to go. I'm impressed, Travis. All right, my number 4, another country, and then I'll get off the countries, I promise. South Africa. And there's really one grape that takes me there, but there's a couple other grapes.
Pinotage.
No, not a fan of Pinotage, sorry. But Chenin Blanc, I really enjoy from South Africa. Now, while there, I have had some very beautiful Pinot Noirs and some very beautiful Chardonnays. So I would like, to explore those grapes down there a little bit more, because I'm a big fan of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, but I haven't drank a lot of those wines from South Africa. And then I want to do just more Chenin Blanc, because I absolutely love, might be my favorite white varietal right now.
All right, dry Chenin Blanc is killer.
Yeah. So
But still and sparkling.
I've never had a sparkling.
Yeah, they do beautiful sparkling.
Oh, really? Okay, that would be fun to try. In the traditional method?
No, Charmat.
Okay.
At least the ones that I've had.
All right, number 3 for Travis.
All right, so number 3, I don't have a lot of notes, and this is not necessarily a good thing for me because I do represent these regions, but it's very few people even realize they sell wine unless they spend a ton of time at our Houston wine bars, because a lot of times producers or distributors will come in and do flights there. But Slovenia, Croatia, and Greece, and I'm putting them in a little tight bundle, just because they are 3 underrepresented, unknown, small wine producing regions. And
Surprised you didn't include Georgia.
Georgia definitely could have been Georgia. We can go ahead and rope that in there, but
So you say Georgia could have made it.
yeah, I mean, but again, that's just because my lack of education. We'll call it ignorance for Georgia. I mean, But, I don't represent Georgian wines, but Slovenia and Croatia and Greece I do. And
Makes sense.
yeah. And so there's, of course they have their grapes of, Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay. They have some really good orange wine out of Slovenia that I do know a little bit about that one. That is a, super just classic tasting. It's Pinot Gris, Chardonnay, and I forget the third grape, but I mean that's some killer orange wine. Just they give it just enough skin contact to give it that hue, but they don't overly do it. It's not one of those that comes off austere or weird. But that's a producer or Sanctum is the name of that producer, and they do a really good job, making that stuff. And but that's Slovenia, but then Greece and Croatia are probably the two that I'm weakest in out of that little trio. I
think Greece is understandable to a point because it's just been recently where they've really, bulked up their exports of their wines and stuff. They've been making wine for a very long time. But I don't think you saw a lot of export from them. Now you're starting to see a lot more.
Yeah, all you would see before was the Retsina.
Yeah.
Which was the pine resin infused wine.
Yep.
They make lovely, lovely wines, but very small productions and haven't had a lot of exposure.
Yep.
Well, and some of it's your classic vinifera grapes, but some of them are have Greek names that I can't.
People are going, what do you mean vinifera grapes? Just tell them that's the mama.
Yeah, you're.
But that makes it hard to sell. When you try to even guess at the name.
Yeah.
Well, but whenever it's Greek lettered grapes, like I just give up, and but it's stuff that you have to not give up and just keep pushing through and see like, hey, what is this? Is this something I want to buy more of and just kind of get used to it? And anyway, so Slovenia, Croatia, and Greece is a little trio that I want to dive more into in 2025.
So I'm kind of seeing a theme here. I'm kind of noticing we are figuring out what Travis's portfolio is and where he needs some more knowledge in that portfolio, and that's where you're going.
Well, no, I don't sell anything from Portugal.
You don't sell anything from Portugal?
No, sir.
Slovenia?
Slovenia, Greece, and Croatia, yes. And that was why it was kind of like a knock on myself, is because I need to learn more about those grapes.
Okay.
And then also...
I take back what I said.
The number 2 on my list is going to be something that I don't represent. But,
okay.
But
and I'll tell you, kind of my approach was, I'm doing wines that I haven't had a lot of exposure to, as far as really diving deep and drinking a lot of it to really find producers that I really enjoy. But what I have had has been fantastic, and I want to do more exploration. But I'll also say it's wines that I wanted to be mindful of, because there's a few regions, you might throw the Jura in there, that might not be so easy to find wines from. So I try to stay with wines that I think a lot of people listening might go, ooh, I want to go try that. And so that was
I just recently had from Slovenia Blaufränkisch.
Oh, really?
But they're right over the border from Friulin, which there it's Franconia. But it's what we typically think of Blaufränkisch from Austria.
Sure.
But it's interesting. I mean,
it's a red wine.
To what I was talking about before, the wines in countries like Slovenia were so rustic.
Yeah.
I mean, delicious, but there.
Yeah.
And now they've either changed the style or improved the methods to make them more, in a sense, approachable or palatable for the international market.
Well, I mean, I think it's funny because I just want styles. In the past 2 months, I've had a Rosé Blaufränkisch, I've had a full red Blaufränkisch, and I've had the Franconia that you're familiar with. And, they're all 3 incredibly different styles of that grape. And so it's just talking about styles, places, climates, elevations, what different grapes can do in different places of the world.
That's part of the fun of exploring too. When I say keep an open mind, because, a lot of, and, we know so many people in the States, especially, I'll ask friends, you drink wine? And they'll go, yeah. I go, what do you drink? And they go, Napa Valley. And I'm like, okay, you're a Napa drinker. You might not be a wine drinker.
They're not your friends anymore.
No, I cut them off right away. You know me. But my point in saying that is getting people to explore too. And that's why I keep driving home, have an open mind, because too many of my friends have this, doesn't taste like Napa, or doesn't taste like the Sauvignon Blanc from Napa, or doesn't taste like the Chardonnay, from Rombauer. I like buttery and I know that's kind of going away. But just as an example, I think, people need to go out and explore what grapes can be in different climates, different regions, different elevations, all that kind of stuff. Because It's really fun to do.
Oh,
if
I
you're a
agree.
wine drinker.
You need to identify if your favorite wine is a Napa Cab. In a sense, identify why you like the Napa Cab. Is it the style? Is it the grape? And go out and explore what you might like. What other Cabernets you like from other parts of the world or styles that fit in there.
Here's a question for both of you. Do you guys see on that point, when you think Napa Cab, you think big and jammy, alcoholic, kind of maybe a little over extracted. I see that kind of changing for me a lot. It's not a style I enjoy a whole lot anymore.
It's like they're pulling back.
Yeah, I think they're getting a little more restrained and starting to kind
I think both producer-wise and just consumer-wise, you're seeing that people, and it's in both red and whites, is that you're seeing that people are pulling away from the over-extracted, super tannic, no matter where it's coming from, they're looking for wines that are just a little more approachable and ready to drink now. Just yesterday in a retail account, I was, interacting with the department manager, a guest, and myself, and we were talking about they wanted a Barolo, and they were looking at 2019 Barolo, which I laugh at, because probably the three of us at this table would much rather appreciate 2016, 2015, 2014 Barolo instead of somebody looking at buying 2019, because you look at 2019 Barolo as an investment. It's not something you're going to drink tonight.
Damn, I feel bad that Barillo's open back there. Guess what vintage it is?
2019.
2019.
Guess what? It's pretty damn good.
Oh, I believe it.
But I will tell you, that's like a $38 Barolo. So it's probably not built to be laid down for a while. It's more approachable, I think.
I mean, but I think people have this kind of misconception that Barolo is this big tannic beast, and not all of it is. But it's the Nebbiolo grape has that acid and that body that can handle it. Whether it's not necessarily, some of them are ultra tannic, and they're gonna have you sucking the tannin off your cheeks for a while, but then also some of them are just the acid is what's going to carry them on that laying down and aging time period.
Well,
but is that a stylistic change, or is that something having to do with climate? Barolos.
I think it's a change. I think winemakers are trying to make them more approachable.
Of course, I agree. Who can afford or wants to lay down a Barolo for 10 years?
Yeah, and when you think about Gen X and the baby boomers, these were a big purchasing group, of wines, and they're kind of slowing down. They may still want to buy some wine, but they're not buying anything now that they want to lay down for 10 to 20 years.
Well, and I mean, that was part of my number 5 I listed as West Coast stuff, just because I need to go back and appreciate that, because for so long I've considered going everything else off the beaten path, whether it's finding Cabernet from every other corner of the world but Napa, and maybe it's time to go back to Napa and see what they're doing now.
Yeah,
sure. But I think also in Italian we call wines like Barolo a punto d'arrivo. It's like a destination. So that's where you get to when your palate is developed. It can be a Barolo, it can be a great first course Bordeaux, it can be a Brunello.
Yep.
So as people learn about wines, you can't expect the Barolo to fit into what you like today.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Well, I
may not appreciate it at the beginning.
100%, I don't think they would.
Of course.
Especially if you're coming from the big cabs from Napa, you're not going to appreciate that. It's going to be tough.
Angelo, I'm not sure if we've danced around it here or not, but what is your number 3?
We're not skipping me, huh?
No.
So I would say
to?
No. So I think number 3 for me will be a region.
Okay.
And a region that's really been so interesting and educational for me, Parras, Mexico.
Ah.
The Valley of Parras, Valle de Parras. It is the oldest wine growing region on the continent since like the 1560s.
So we're talking North America.
Correct.
Okay.
All North America. They're about 3 hours south of Texas. And it's fascinating. Not only is the history fascinating because it involves the Roman Empire, the Spanish Empire, the church, the conquistadores, it's the missions. It's very, very interesting. Most winemakers have brought over stock from France.
Okay.
So they have the main varietals like the Syrah, Cabernet, Bordeaux, Merlot, Cabernet Franc. But they also have revived Spanish varietals like the Palomino.
Oh, wow.
Others might have like is it the Viognier that we've seen? No,
not in Mexico, but what else have we seen? But they're also experimenting with different styles of those grapes.
Of course. But however, what's interesting about this appellation is that the wines are New World, but they have a very definite Old World leaning.
Okay.
So forget that that extracted jamminess that you get from most New World wines.
Is that because we have some elevation, we have some terroir?
There's elevation and there's the microclimate and the
Okay.
terroir. I mean, it's so
So they have a big diurnal temperature shift at night. And
Oh,
stuff?
absolutely.
Well, a lot of it is elevation, and and
They're about 5 or 6,000 feet.
Wow.
So it's
okay.
about as high as
That's
you can get.
nice.
and it does happen to be that the farmers down in that region, they're taking great care of their land. So I mean, it's they're taking care of their water. They don't want to put pesticides into the soil. So I mean, I think that's a really good point. Is a lot of people are familiar with the Baja California Mexican wines,
Yeah.
but not so much the northern kind of central or mainland Mexico wines.
They get centimeters of rain a year,
Wow.
which is what we get here in
Thursday.
an hour.
Yeah. Which for people who don't know, that's a good thing. Some people might be, it's not enough rain, but you want the vines to struggle. That's what develops, the good fruit is when they have to struggle.
So to me, wine is always a reflection, not only of the terroir, but of the culture and the history.
Yeah.
And this region, for me, really takes a picture of what was and what is and what's to come.
What about distribution? And people, are you seeing more and more of this? Is this more in Texas, California, or are we starting to see this go up through the States a little bit more?
I think you're seeing a little bit more, but they do struggle because the wines are a little bit more expensive from what you would assume or expect. Obviously, the big name is Casa Madero, which is not the oldest winery, but there was a winery older than them. They're from 1587, if I'm not mistaken. And so they're in the market. They're pretty prominent nationwide.
Okay.
But there's a lot of small wineries that are making very valid products from that valley, and certainly deserve a distribution or
That's awesome.
exposure for sure.
All right, you ready for my number 3?
Shoot, Rob, what do you got?
I'm going to Alsace. What do you think I'm going to?
Grape variety, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to say white.
Nope.
Okay.
Pinot Noir. So I know this last year, Alsace got awarded 3 Grand Crus for their Pinot Noirs. And I did a show with Kevin Day out of Denver, and we had the Wines of Alsace kind of send us some wines, and they're going to start distributing their Pinot Noirs. And there's a lot of rumor that the costs are going to be a lot less than getting a Pinot Noir from Burgundy. And I'm very excited and very interested to see the quality of these if they've been awarded a Grand Cru and what they're like once they. I haven't seen one yet, but I'm on the lookout because I've been being told that they're going to start showing up on shelves here in the States.
Yeah, I mean, you can currently get Alsatian Pinot Noir for, I'd say, like in the mid upper 40s right now.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's from one of the Grand Crus, but
Where are you seeing that?
I saw one at Vinology.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's it's a beautiful I mean, the grape kind of drinks somewhere between Northern Italian, Burgundy, and then of course getting a little bit closer, but Germany, that very lean, earthy, but still obviously very fresh fruit, red fruit characteristic.
Okay. Yeah, so that's number 3 for me. Number 2 for you, Travis.
Number 2 for me, we've kind of hit it a little bit, but Australia as a whole.
Okay.
It's one of mine that's just ignorant, undiscovered, in my opinion, under-distributed. Like Tasmanian Bubbles, Barossa Valley, Yarra Valley, Hunter Valley, the stuff that, like you said, exactly, we that there are places on a map where we know that they make wine, but, I know they make. I've had Penfolds. Everybody's had Penfolds.
Sure.
It's on the top shelf at HEB. But I need to dive in and see what their Pinot Noir is about. What is their white wine about? It's a place where I kind of ignorance is what I'm giving myself that title as far as places like Portugal and Australia and the Slovenia, Croatia, Greece region. That's what I'm trying to fix in 2025.
You talk about the white wines. One that the McClare Vale, I really like the Riesling. Very, very impressive for the ones I've had.
Yeah, and one thing that I've the Sauvignon Blanc out of that region that I don't think that's something that's going to change with me. I don't love not Australia, but
Sauvignon Blanc in general.
no,
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Thank you.
Too grassy and
oh my gosh, like I just, and it's what so much of the market wants.
Yeah.
But to me, like I would prefer Sauvignon Blanc from anywhere else in the world.
Come on, dude. You don't want Kim Crawford.
No. I don't.
Barefoot.
Yeah.
But it's
Is
just,
that all? Is that from New Zealand?
I assume. I don't know.
But it's just
Travis will tell us.
New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is something you can smell from 10 or 12 feet away, and it's just that loud passion fruit, bell pepper, pyrazine, bell pepper skin. Just I don't want any part of it. I would rather my Sauvignon Blanc to come from St. Brie, Chile, anywhere else.
Yeah.
Anywhere else but New Zealand.
So if you want your wine to go with your food, you want something that doesn't immediately overwhelm everything you're eating. So that's partially.
But you make that comment and it makes me ask the question to both of you. I feel like I'm seeing more people who are casual wine drinkers trying to learn more about how to properly pair wine with food. And I don't want to get into, don't overthink it. It's not that hard to do. But, you're not going to have a big red, Napa Cabernet with, some spicy Asian food. There's some general rules, but I think I see more and more people wanting to learn those things.
I agree, and that's probably why some of those California winemakers are pulling away from that style.
Yeah.
Because people are wanting to have something that can pair with their food.
Yeah. And then the other thing I would say is, let's be honest, white wines go with a whole lot more food than red wines do.
Sure.
For the most part. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would.
I think, for red wine, like universal red wines, I think, Pinot Noir gets a lot of credit just because I don't know how, but, of all the grapes out there, I mean, everybody knows what Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, I guess just because they're Bordeaux varietals, but, like Gamay doesn't get enough credit just because, Gamay is still that, higher acid, very universal pairing just because of the acidity. Still lower on the tannin, but so I wouldn't necessarily put it with a steak, but barbecue and Gamay for sure. Barbecue and Malbec, barbecue and Zinfandel. We eat a lot of barbecue in Texas. Primitivo and barbecue.
Somebody likes that grape.
The Italian ambassador over here. We have to find what wine fits what we're doing for the day, and so that's what you got to figure out for yourself.
Yep.
So can you guys tell me where Primitivo comes from?
I want to say it's Greece, isn't it? I know Italy gets Puglia is where I think about
in Italy, yes.
Yeah,
but
Italy.
But where does the grape come from?
I thought it was Greece. It's not Greece. I thought it came across.
No, Croatia.
Oh, it is Croatia.
Crayonik or Crayonek is the name of the grape when it comes over.
But I know when you think about it,
I get the bonus points.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. All right, number 2 for you, Angelo.
For me, would be probably the region of Veneto.
Oh, okay. I love that.
Yeah, it's
so
one of my
people who
favorite
don't
regions.
know, it's up north.
Up north,
region.
anywhere like from Verona all the way past Venice, all the way to Slovenia.
And the thing that's cool about this region, and I would throw Friuli in there as well, is the influence of some other countries that kind of border.
Sure. Well, we have Austria, we have Slovenia.
Yep.
For sure. We have Bordeaux blends.
Yep.
They're famous for the Bordeaux blends. We have Amarones there. We have Soave, Prosecco, Friuli Grave, Sauvignon Blancs, Refosco. It's just not only for the mainstays, but it's a region that has so many undiscovered small wineries that are just making jewels and just amazing wines.
Now, what's the big grape people would know from that region that it's known for?
Prosecco.
Probably Prosecco.
And then red?
Amarone or Ripasso.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, the Amarone. Talk about a big wine.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but it's a different style, the way the method in which they make that wine. So it's...
I know, Rob, you probably said on this show before that, your country to drink wine from if you had to for the rest of your life would be Italy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think for me, you could refine that to northern Italy. I mean, for me.
I'm not going to lose Brunello. I'm not going to lose...
Well, Brunello would fall into the northern
I put that
half.
central. Okay.
I mean, all right, so Tuscany and
it's
north.
still Italy.
Yeah.
For us.
For sure.
I just go Italy. I'm not going to...
But I mean, Piedmont, the Veneto, Friuli, I mean,
that region.
Yeah, I mean, and even on the west side of Garda, I mean, you can get just wines to last you a lifetime.
Yeah, well, and just getting up north, but coming back to the west, I would also say, people think Barolo and Barbaresco and Nebbiolo grape, but I think if you're not exploring Barbera up in Piedmont, you're missing out too.
Oh, agreed. I mean, that's a very universal.
Barbera in Lombardia.
Oh, is it really?
On Lake Garda in
okay, I did not know that.
Sure.
I haven't had one of those.
Yeah, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Those I knew.
Marzamino.
I have some Pinot Noir from there too.
Oh,
That I got from Jeremy Parson.
Yeah, but so even the wines from north of Italy, from Veneto, have always been more. I always say that these wines paint a picture.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful. They tell a story. Traditionally, the wines from further south were more for getting back to the point of more rustic or more for cutting wines. But the wines from the north seem to have arrived to that point before.
Yeah.
And they've got grapes. They've brought over stock from France 200 years ago. It's developed obviously a lot of their own clones.
I will tell you my number 2. It's not going to shock either one of you, but it's a region that my wife and I kind of dabbled in a little bit last year and just absolutely fell in love, and it's Chablis. I think Chablis whites are, the minerality, the crispness, the acidity level. I mean, I just really love Chablis. They're awesome, and I want to explore that region and see the different styles and different wines from different producers and really see what we like from there, because we haven't had one that we just hate. I mean, obviously there's ones that we like more than the others, but Chablis in general has been a big hit for us.
great. And that lines up with what's actually going to be leading into my number 1. My number 1 is going to be, I'd say, Frenchies outside of Bordeaux. So I mean, I narrow that down to the Rhone Valley, the Languedoc-Roussillon, the Loire Valley, and Alsace. I mean, so probably those 4 is where.
So France.
Yeah. Well, but it's kind of like what I did with the West Coast, is that it's France outside of what I already know.
So you're excluding Bordeaux
I
and
know
Burgundy?
Yes. So I'm excluding Bordeaux and Burgundy. I know those 2 at least on a textbook and on paper pretty well. But there's a lot of stuff like Loire Valley. I mean, I know it on a very surface level. I know Languedoc-Roussillon on a very surface level. Alsace, Pinot Gris, Riesling, Pinot Noir, Gewürztraminer. Those. I mean, I know what they produce. I've tasted maybe 3 or 4 producers, but they make. There's tons of stuff that I haven't discovered yet. But just from what I have discovered, I know there's a ton of potential that I need to dive down and see what's really there. But just not from a business perspective, but just from just seeing what the
exploring.
region, exploring what it's about, and just seeing for my next meal pairing or for my next recommendation that somebody says, hey, I need a French wine for a meal tonight. What do you say? And I say, well, I know that this region's making some really great Cab Franc, or if you need a rosé, go down to this place in France and get it. But it's just there's. I think, and I'm not the only one, is that people think that they know French wine, but do you know more than Bordeaux and Burgundy? Yeah. And that's where I'm sitting, is I need to get more familiar with, these 4 or 5, 6, 7 infinity regions within France that I don't yet already know.
I'll say something about Alsace that I've been told. I've never been, but I've heard people say, when you think about going for a trip to France, a lot of times it's Champagne, it's Bordeaux, it's Burgundy, it might be the Rhone Valley. They say Alsace is a treat. They say it's a great destination for somebody who's going over on a little wine trip. And they said that, not only the fantastic wines, but the cultural influence from Germany to France and that mix there with food and stuff, they said is just amazing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's, I told you that the wines that I was bringing over tonight kind of play into my number 1 wine that I want to explore more of this year is, so this... the kind of our aperitif, and while we're doing this show here, is a Cremant de Jura, 100% Chardonnay, 18 months on lees. I don't really know a whole lot about this wine. I'm learning about it as I sip it, but this is very good stuff. And then the Chardonnay that we're going to kind of start our meal off with tonight is going to be still from Burgundy, but it's a pardon my pronunciation here, but Vézelay. So it's not a Chablis, but it's maybe right like a neighboring region to Chablis, but a little bit stylistically different than Chablis, maybe not as quite mineral driven, more fruit. But
it's from the region of Chablis?
No, but it's from Burgundy.
Oh, okay.
Just
what
not
region?
I think. See, I'm showing my ignorance here. I think Vézelay is the village,
like a sub-region, or
sub-region,
sub-appellation.
Again, you wine educated folks listening, don't laugh too hard right now. But that's one reason why I wanted to grab this versus a Chablis. When picking wine for tonight, is I wanted to pick something that I didn't know anything about, and so we're gonna have a L'Elegante Bourgogne Vézelay.
Oh, nice.
To start off dinner tonight.
All right, that's your number one region. A lot of the areas in France.
Yeah, for France, outside of Bordeaux and Burgundy.
Yeah. All right, you're up. Number one.
So I think for me, the number one region that I'd like to explore more this year, I'm going to go totally against what Travis said, is Bordeaux. I would like to explore more Bordeaux from every price point.
Yeah.
And understand.
Well, I want to be with you on some of those price points.
Let's go. Well, I'll need help on some of the higher ones. But also to see how the wines, that is one region that has been critically influenced lately by the climate change.
Yeah.
As we all know. So I would like to see what's going on, what's evolving and what's coming.
Yeah. The hardest thing for me, to your point about exploring more Bordeaux or Burgundy, I have this basic understanding of the region, left bank, right bank, what sub-regions are on those, but I don't know producers, and
Right.
figuring out, who's my value producer, who punches up, who can I get a left bank cab from for $30 that I go,
Right.
man,
That isn't a first
50.
growth.
Yeah.
Outside of your first growths, even like the second label of those first growths. I mean, it's almost impossible to know. I mean, and I think a similar thing could be said for Italy, is that unless it's one of your Kermit Lynch's or one of these other famous importers, to where you just kind of blindly trust whatever they're importing, it's tough to know. I mean, you start Googling.
Yeah, or do they have like a declassified Cap Franc or something like that?
Yeah,
That
man.
might be spectacular.
And I think we're both kind of saying the same thing, is there's so much that we need to learn. And,
Sure.
Unless you're one of these supremely educated folks, and we'll just stay within Houston, that knows a ton about these regions and the producers and what's on the market, it's tough to just know where to go next as far as, within France. I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of bad Bordeaux on the market. There's
not a lot of bad wine on the market anymore.
That's a fair statement. But I mean, the people in Bordeaux have been making wine a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that the same could be said about the more prominent regions in Italy. They've been making
they set a standard.
Yeah. I mean, there's producers in, Chianti Classico or up in the Veneto that have been making wine for, 300, 400, 500, 600 years. And so that's why, you see a bottle of DOCG Prosecco or a Chianti Classico or a Hot Medoc, and, for a certain price, and you just kind of trust it.
Yeah.
Right. But today, most of those new winemakers do their stage either in Australia, which is interesting, or Bordeaux.
Yeah.
So
true.
That's one of the reasons why I want to explore more of that.
I want to ask both you guys, we're talking about wines we're going to explore. Do you have a favorite wine or a grape that when you want to go home and you want to be safe and you're going to open something that you're absolutely going to love? Is there a grape or a region that that's your safe space?
3, 2, 1, Sangiovese.
Okay, that's mine too.
Mine would be Cabernet Franc.
Would it really?
Yes.
That kind of surprises me.
Or the Cabernet, what they call Cabernet in Friuli, or in that region, which is usually a 80-20 Cabernet Sauvignon and 20 Cabernet Franc.
Really? I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have seen that coming.
But I mean, I'll trust a Sangiovese 99% of the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you get great value too, whether
Sure.
you're in Chianti or even in Brunello for that matter, or Pinot Noble di Montepulciano.
Morellino Descanso or, several, oh my God. Just up north.
Umbria.
Umbria?
As a region, there's an amazing Sangiovese blend.
Oh, really?
Emilia Romagna as well.
Emilia Romagna as well, yeah.
Yeah,
When
they make some very fresh versions of Sangiovese there.
When I think of Umbria, I think
Sagrantino.
For sure.
big wine.
But I mean, like,
but Emilia Romagna, that's a good one. They do a great Sangiovese.
I've never had that. I need to try that.
Yeah, a lot of times they're very fresh. They don't stick their Sangiovese in oak for a super long time.
Okay.
But because of it's a little bit warmer of a climate, so I think they try and capture the grapes and then just go like cement or maybe amphora. Maybe amphora.
They have the Sangiovese Rubicone,
Okay.
which is the known appellation.
All right, we'll finish up with my number one. We'll do a couple of honorable mentions, and then we'll wrap up this episode. My number one, I'm going back to Italy. Any guess where I might go?
Tuscany.
No.
I'm going to go bold and say the South.
Yeah. Sicily.
Okay.
I'm going Mount Etna. I have really, over the last year and a half,
You hate that region, right?
love that. Love Mount Etna. Love the Biancos. Love the Rossos. I will say that I've been drinking, my wife and I, from 3 or 4 producers that we really like, and been drinking those wines. So what I want to do is I'm starting to see more and more both of those, the Bianco and the Rossos, on the shelves. So I want to start exploring some different producers. And you drunk? And exploring some different producers and trying some different things. But it's a region that.
When he doesn't do that.
Oh, really?
That is a fascinating
really
region.
good.
That is a fascinating region. If you think about it from a winemaking point of view.
Yeah.
So you're on Mount Etna, which is a very active volcano. You watch TV in Italy or internationally, and it's a really active volcano. So you have your earth, your terroir, which is volcanic ash. You have not only on the earth, but you have it constantly falling on the vines.
Yeah.
You have the elements from the weather, but you also have the heat from the volcano.
Yeah.
So it creates an amazingly unique microclimate.
And I would say, in my opinion, these are, I call them elegant, very finesse driven.
Any favorite varietals from there?
Well, I'm going to go Mount Etna. So I'm going to go the Nero Mescal. Yeah.
Nerello, Mascalese,
Yep.
Capuccio.
And the, what's the primary white grape? It's for Bianco.
I can't think of the name.
I can't think of it either. But those two styles have been what I've just absolutely been enjoying. The Bianco reminds me of a Chablis. To me, a lot of acidity.
The texture.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The texture. You get some minerality. It's really been enjoying those wines a bunch. I would also say this about that region, and tell me if I'm missing something here. If you think about all the great regions in Italy, whether you go to the Veneto, Piedmont, Tuscany, Mount Etna is the only one that I can think of where you go, there's a signature red and a signature white that are like, Burgundy or some other places where you have this signature red and white.
Caricante.
Caricante. Thank you very much.
I was going to say Catarato, which is another Sicilian grape.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Caricante.
Thank you, Dr. Google.
So I think that helps this region, that you have these signature white and red. The red can get you there. You discover the white or vice versa. I think it's obviously it's been up and coming for a couple of years, but I think it's just going to continue to get better and better and better.
Well, but the great thing about Mount Etna is that you can get just very, very base Nerello Mascalese and they just call it by the grape varietal on the label, all the way up to very prestigious Mount Etna that's near $100 a bottle. That's outstanding.
Sure.
Taylor and I have had one at a local restaurant that, the restaurateur was nice enough to just pour us a sample, and it was probably top 3 wines of my life.
Really?
I could probably dig through my phone and find the label, but it was an outstanding Mount Etna wine. But the Caricante there is higher acid, but just a beautiful body. That I think both of those are very universal wines.
Yeah.
Those things go from barbecue to a steak to a grilled chicken breast. And I bring up food so much because that's kind of my caveat or my path to wine is through food.
But let's be honest, they go together. They're meant to go together.
Yeah,
they're
sure.
Made to go together.
Much like how you've mentioned in the past is that that's not necessarily the way for whiskey or beer or
Last week's episode,
sparkling water. Wine is the only beverage that actually enhances your meal, and your meal enhances the beverage. So
yeah. Absolutely. All right, honorable mentions. We'll go a couple each if you all want to, and we'll wrap this up. Do you have any that were close to making your list that you didn't put on there, but you'd like to mention?
I would say I'll just rattle this off pretty quick. Germany and Chile. Those are 2 that were close to making it, but again, my ignorance is kind of highlighted in Germany. I know a fair amount about the wines in Chile, but just stuff that I haven't drank enough of. That I would like to get further into. I know they make some great Cabernet Sauvignon, Carmenere, Petit Verdot, Merlot. But I just like to dive in and see, the different styles of those bigger grapes. And then in Germany, I know there's, a broad, full range of grapes that just yet to be discovered for me and a lot of other people. But
I'll tell you, Germany's on my list. But what I haven't done that I want to do is take, what is there, 8 to 10 different styles of Riesling. And I want to line them up and do a tasting and kind of have an understanding of what's the evolution of dry to sweet to very sweet.
Sounds like you're talking about an upcoming show.
Maybe. You never know.
We'll take it from a cabinet.
Or the petroleum essence of Riesling.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a huge skill on that too. Some of them have it very prominently, others hardly at all.
But it takes a little while, right? It's something that's a tertiary note.
Sure.
Yeah. I think, isn't it? Or
yes.
am I? Okay.
No, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll line up 8 Rieslings on this table and go from a cabinet all the way to a Spatlese.
Yeah, absolutely. Get another one?
No, I think Chile and Germany were the two that were on the cusp for me.
So for me, I have 2. The region was Côte-du-Rhône.
Okay.
I think it makes some of the most loveliest and most approachable wines.
Oh, and
France.
great value.
Absolutely.
Killer value.
It's absolutely. And
Well,
then
I haven't had a lot of whites from there.
neither have I, but they do have some lovely whites.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't done
And then my second is a grape called Erba Luce from the Canavese region in Piedmont, right under Mont Blanc.
Okay.
And it's a DOCG. It's actually the first DOCG in Piedmont and one of the first in Italy. But it's so versatile.
Okay.
They do the still, they do the on the cryo maceration, they do Charmat, champagne from 24 months to 180 months.
Yeah.
Is there
And
much
it's
Erba Luce on the market to be? Okay.
No, but it's a really interesting grape.
I'll give you a couple for me. And this is more the white wines of Loire Valley. I just really enjoy, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of regions for Sauvignon Blanc, but Sancerre or Pouilly-Fumé, I just seem to really enjoy quite a bit, both me and my wife. I love Chenin Blanc. That's where I kind of fell in love with it. I don't know, when I think Chenin Blanc, I think Loire Valley and South Africa. Are there some other regions that that make? I've heard Australia, another reason I want to get into Australia. But are there some other regions you guys have had some quality Chenin Blancs from?
I mean, you get different styles of Chenin Blanc, like in Vouvray. I mean, there's demi-sec, to where it's definitely not, by the name it says, but it's not dry. It's, and that's not my favorite expression of it. I prefer a dry Chenin Blanc, no matter where it's from. That's one that I've heard that California is actually doing pretty well. Is a dry Chenin Blanc that I would like to find one and try that.
Yeah. The last grape from that region for me is we tried it on a show that I did about the Loire Valley last year, and I've had it a couple times since. I want to have some more of it. Is the Melon de Bourgogne, so the Muscadet.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. First time having that reminds me in this kind of Chablis style again. You can tell that grape, and I guess it's from Burgundy. It really soaks up the soil. You get that kind of sense of place from this wine. I was just blown away at how good that was in value.
My wife Taylor and I just the other night were watching an episode of V is for Vino, and we learned about on a high level that Melon
de Bourgogne.
And that's kind of again what inspired my number one is getting outside of Bordeaux and Burgundy and seeing what else France has to offer.
Sure. The other one I would say is kind of like your category of excluding things. I'm excluding champagne, and I want to do sparkling. So I want to do more Prosecco, more Cava, more French Corta, more Cremants.
Well, every region has their particular sparkling that's amazing.
I mean, even Slovenia has sparkling Blau Frankish.
I've heard there's tons, and I just haven't explored. So I need to. My wife and I both want to.
Veneto has the Ribolla Gialla.
Oh, okay.
From Friuli,
I love that grape, but I've never had it as a sparkling.
Yeah,
it's
very good. Or the Durella from the Suave area.
Okay.
It's also amazing.
Yeah, I think Angela and I both had a bone dry version of sparkling Ribolla Gialla, and it can be very good.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll finish up with one more, and then I'll give you guys a chance if there's anything else that you want to talk about. This is a region I've really started enjoying and I want to drink more of. Abruzzo. So I really like the whites and the reds. The Montepulciano, I think, is a great grape, not to be confused with Vino Nobile, the town, Montepulciano.
The Pecorino.
Pecorino, I really like the white wine.
Pecorino can be so good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect example of a region that's improved their or elevated the quality of their wines.
Yeah. And I think it's worth exploring. I think still, I mean, obviously any region you go to, you can get expensive wines, but I think this is a region you can still get some really quality wines at sub $25. So
I mean, I'd say both the Pecorino and the Montepulciano can be, I mean, even if just outside of the Reservas, I mean, just super good. I mean, and they're one of those ones that's kind of medium across the board, medium acid, medium tannin, medium alcohol, medium body, and just super versatile, super good wines, underappreciated.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, that was a lot of fun. Any last words? Anything you want to finish with on your upcoming 2025 wine journey?
I just say, treat wine like a journey. Shop like it's your journey. Don't always go back. Say if you love Napa Cab, go see if Slovenia has a cab for you. See if Italy has a cab for you. See if Germany has a cab for you. Try and shop outside of your comfort zone.
And I'll say just a note as we're kind of mentioning that, don't look in the grocery store. Get to a specialty wine shop to really explore
for sure
some cool stuff.
Yeah, where somebody can guide you.
Yeah.
I would say make wine an experience
And
at whatever price point.
Absolutely. And I would say this too, even if you go into a specialty wine shop and you don't see it, ask. They might be able to get it for you. They might be happy to get it for you. So, any finishing wise words from the Italian guru?
Grazie mille.
Okay. All right. Well, guys,
drink more Italian wine.
Exactly.
That was a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys coming on and doing that. Had a good time.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That wraps it up for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. And until our next episode, enjoy that next pour.